The classroom was chaos. Laughter echoed off the walls, sharp and cruel, the kind that makes the air itself feel heavy. A brand new teacher stood at the front, her white blouse torn, her calm face lit by fluorescent light. Ms. Amara Lewis didn't move. The students did, circling, whispering, pointing. "Welcome to Lincoln High," one of the boys sneered, his smirk wide and arrogant. "Guess you'll think twice before bossing us around." Laughter exploded again. Her hands trembled, just barely. But her eyes, those didn't. They were still focused, watching. One girl tossed a piece of paper at her. Another boy, taller, leaned in close, his voice dripping with mockery. "What's wrong, Teach? Gonna cry? Gonna run to the principal? Oh, answer." Amara simply inhaled, slow, deliberate, measured. The kind of breath that came from someone who'd been under real fire before. The door swung open. The principal stepped in, eyes wide. "What's going on here?" The students froze, caught in the act. But no one spoke, because that's when they saw it, faint lines along Amara's forearms. Scars shaped by years of hard training, discipline, survival. For the first time, the laughter died. The silence was sudden, absolute. Amara's gaze swept across the room, calm, commanding, and cold as steel. "You may sit," she said quietly. "Class isn't over yet." In that moment, every student understood they hadn't embarrassed her. They'd just made the worst mistake of their lives. Lincoln High stood in the wealthy suburbs of Atlanta, a place that looked perfect on the outside, but was rotten with arrogance inside. The students walked the halls with expensive sneakers, loud laughter, and the kind of entitlement that only came from never hearing the word no. Teachers came and went. None lasted long. The students had learned how to break them with mockery, defiance, and the quiet threat of powerful parents. That was the environment Ms. Amara Lewis walked into. Early30s.com. Collected. She had an aura that didn't need volume to demand attention, the kind of presence that made silence feel heavy. Her posture was straight, her steps measured. She wore simple clothes, a white blouse, navy slacks, and a silver necklace that shimmered faintly when light hit it. To most, she looked ordinary. But there was something behind her eyes, a kind of focus that said she'd seen storms far worse than teenage rebellion. Her resume was simple. Former U.S. Marine instructor. Education degree from Georgia State. Passionate about discipline and leadership. To Principal Moore, she was a risk worth taking. To the students, she was just another teacher to test. Her first morning began with whispers. She used to be in the army or something. Look at her. She thinks she's tough. Bet she quits in a week. The loudest voices belonged to three names that echoed through the hallways like a warning. Brent, Mason. And Lila? Brent was the ringleader, tall, confident. The kind of boy who smiled when he got others in trouble. His father was a lawyer, his mother a board member. Mason, his shadow, did whatever Brent told him to. Lila, sharp-tongued and cunning, loved attention more than truth. Together, they'd turned cruelty into sport. When Amara entered the classroom for the first time, their eyes followed her like wolves circling new prey. "Good morning," she said, voice calm, almost a calm. "My name is Miss Lewis. You can call me that, or you can call me ma'am. Either works," the class chuckled. Brent leaned back in his chair. "Do we salute you too, ma'am?" A ripple of laughter. Amara smiled slightly. Not in amusement, but acknowledgement. "No, Brent. You'll salute me when you earn it." The laughter died just a little. She began class by writing one word on the board, respect. Then, beneath it she wrote, earned, not demanded. "You may not like me," she said, turning to face them. "You don't have to, but you will learn. And you will learn about more than just this subject. You'll learn what it means to earn respect from others and from yourselves." Her tone wasn't harsh. It was steady, almost gentle, but the weight in her voice silenced the chatter. Still, Brent smirked. "Sounds deep, ma'am. But this isn't boot camp." Lamar looked directly at him. "Good. Boot camp has rules." A few students laughed nervously. Others looked away. By the second week, she'd introduced structure, timed reading drills, participation grades, zero tolerance for phones. Most students adapted. Brent and his crew didn't. They mocked her calm, whispered insults just loud enough for her to hear. Leela mimicked her tone during breaks. Mason drew caricatures of her on the whiteboard before class. Amara never reacted. She erased the drawings, ignored the mockery, and taught with the same quiet precision every day. But behind her calm, she watched them closely, the same way she once watched recruits in training, waiting for the moment when discipline meets defiance. One Friday morning, the tension finally snapped. Brent entered class late, chewing gum, shirt untucked. "Sorry, ma'am," he said with a grin. "Had to fix my hair for roll call," Lila giggled. Mason snickered. Amara simply wrote his name down on a notepad. "You'll stay after class." Brent frowned. "For what?" "For your first lesson in accountability," she replied. He rolled his eyes. Whatever, that afternoon, the three of them stayed. They thought it would be boring detention, a quiet room, maybe some extra work. But Amara wasn't sitting at her desk. She stood by the door, her arms crossed, face unreadable. "You like challenges, right?" she asked. Brent smirked. "Depends on the kind." "Good," she said softly. "You'll like this one." They didn't know it yet, but that moment, that calm voice, that unwavering gaze was the start of something they'd never forget. Because Ms. Amara Lewis wasn't just another teacher. She was a lesson they were about to learn the hard way. By the third week, the tension in Ms. Lewis's classroom could be sliced like glass. She'd won over most of the students, the quiet ones, the respectful ones, the ones who were tired of the chaos that usually ruled Lincoln High. But Brent, Mason, and Lila, they weren't done. Every day became a game to them. They whispered mock orders in fake military voices when she turned her back. They mocked her calm tone, the way she always wore simple clothes. One morning, Lila sneered loudly enough for the back row to hear. "She dresses like she shops at the donation bin." The class laughed. Amara didn't. She simply wrote something on the board and continued her lecture. But what the students didn't realize was that every time Amara stayed silent, she was watching, learning, waiting. A stormy Wednesday came, the kind that drenched the windows and made the fluorescent lights flicker. Roll call began as usual. "Brent Wallace," she said. "Present, ma'am," he replied with an exaggerated salute. Mason snorted. Leela giggled. "Leela Carter." "Here, Commander Lewis," Leela said mockingly. The laughter rippled again, louder this time. Amara paused mid-mark. Slowly, she placed the pen down. Her calm eyes scanned the room, stopping on Brent. "Do you find something funny, Mr. Wallace?" Brent smirked. "Just trying to keep the mood light, ma'am." "Then perhaps," she said softly, "you'd like to lead today's roll call?" The class went quiet. Brent wasn't expecting that. He hesitated, then swaggered up to the front, trying to mask his nerves. He mimicked her tone. "All right, soldiers. Sound off." Mason and Lila laughed loudly, clapping. Then, without warning, Brent's smirk shifted into something cruel. He reached toward her desk and grabbed the attendance clipboard. "You don't need this, right?" He tossed it behind him. The papers scattered like snow. Gasps filled the room. "Enough," Amara said firmly. But Brent wasn't done. He leaned forward with a smirk. "What are you going to do, ma'am?" "Give me more detention." Before she could answer, Mason reached out and yanked at the sleeve of her blouse just enough to tear the fabric near the shoulder. The sound, that sharp rip, echoed through the classroom like a gunshot. The room erupted in laughter. Amara froze. For a long second, no one moved. Then Brent pointed, laughing so hard his face turned red. "Guess the army didn't teach you to buy decent clothes." Even some of the students who usually stayed quiet joined in. The cruelty was contagious. But through it all, Amara didn't raise her voice. Didn't shout. Didn't cry. She simply inhaled long, deep, deliberate, and exhaled just as slowly. Then she walked to the door and closed it gently. The laughter faltered. When she turned back to them, her tone was calm, almost too calm. "Everyone who laughed, stay after school." "Ouch," Brent scoffed. "You can't give us all detention. "I just did," she said, and that was the end of it. Or so they thought. When the final bell rang, the halls emptied. The laughter had faded. The only sounds were sneakers squeaking and the rain still tapping against the glass. Inside the gym, the fluorescent lights buzzed softly. Amara stood in the middle of the room, her torn sleeve neatly pinned, her posture straight. On the floor, mats were lined up in perfect formation. When the students arrived, about a dozen of them, they stopped short. "What is this?" Brent asked, crossing his arms. "Detention," she said simply. Lila frowned. "This looks like a workout room, correct?" Amara replied. "Because today, you'll learn something your textbooks don't teach: control." Brent scoffed. "Control? Over what?" "Yourself." No one moved. 10 push-ups, she ordered. Now, they laughed at first until she knelt beside one of the mats and demonstrated. Her form was perfect, controlled, her movements fluid and strong. "Your turn," she said quietly. When no one moved, she added, "If you can't follow basic instruction, you fail today's lesson. And failure means repeating it every day until you pass." Reluctantly, a few students dropped to the floor. Leela struggled by the 3rd push-up. Mason groaned after 5. Brent tried to act unfazed, but sweat glistened on his forehead by the 10th. "Up," Amara said. "Now hold a plank." Their arms trembled. She walked slowly between the rows, her voice calm but unyielding. "When you mocked me today, I stayed calm. Do you know why?" No one answered. "Because anger doesn't give you control. Focus does." And that, she pointed to their shaking arms, is the difference between strength and noise. Brent dropped his plank, panting. "This is ridiculous." Amara crouched in front of him, eyes level with his. "No. What's ridiculous is thinking disrespect makes you powerful. You're strong when you can face humiliation. And stay still." For once, Brent didn't have a comeback. Over the next several afternoons, detention became something no one expected. A silent training ground. Every day at 3:30. The same group filed into the gym, and every day, Amara led them through drills, push-ups, balance, breathing exercises, group coordination at first. They complained, mocked, even tried to sneak out. But Amara never raised her voice, never punished. She simply repeated her command. Again. Slowly, something began to shift. The exercises grew harder, not physically, but mentally. She introduced blindfold drills, trust exercises, teamwork challenges. She made them rely on each other to finish tasks. For the first time, Brent had to depend on Mason. For the first time, Lila had to lead a team instead of mocking one. And through it all, Amara watched. Not as a teacher, but as someone who understood that discipline wasn't taught through punishment. It was taught through self-awareness. One afternoon, after 2 weeks of detention, Brent arrived early. He found Amara alone in the gym, standing near the far wall, pinning new photos on a corkboard. Curiosity got the better of him. He walked closer and froze. The board was covered with newspaper clippings and photographs. Headlines read, "Marine Drill Sergeant saves squad in ambush. Atlanta native receives Medal of Honor. Veteran-turned-educator aims to transform youth through discipline." There she was, Amara Lewis, in full Marine uniform, standing beside a group of soldiers. Her posture was the same, her eyes calm, her expression fierce. Brent stepped back. His mouth went dry. She turned, meeting his gaze. "Curious?" she asked. I didn't know you were a soldier." She finished for him. "You weren't supposed to." He swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Amara looked at the photos quietly for a moment before answering. "Because respect isn't earned from medals. It's earned from actions." Brent didn't know what to say. For the first time, he wasn't mocking her. He was speechless. That same day, the others noticed Brent's silence during training. He followed orders. No jokes, no smirks. Leela whispered, "What's with him?" Amara didn't answer. But she saw at the start of a shift. By the end of that week, the detention group had changed. They arrived on time. They stopped laughing. They began asking questions. Mason, out of breath after a run, muttered, "I didn't think I could do half this stuff." Mara smiled faintly. "You could. You just never tried." When they finished, she had them sit in a circle. "Why do you think we're doing this?" she asked. "To make us miserable?" Lila said weakly. Amara shook her head. "To teach you control. Power isn't about hurting others. It's about mastering yourself." She paused, her voice lowering just a little. "And when you master that, no one can humiliate you. Ever." The gym was silent except for the sound of their breathing. One evening, as the sun set through the gym windows, Brent stayed behind. He lingered awkwardly, pretending to tie his shoes. "Ms. Lewis," he finally said. "Yes. I wanted to say sorry. For what happened that day?" She looked at him, not surprised, but thoughtful. "What changed?" He hesitated. "I saw those pictures. I didn't know you went through all that. I thought you were just another teacher." Mara smiled softly. "And now?" He met her eyes. "Now I know you're tougher than anyone I've ever met." Amara nodded slowly. "Don't admire me, Brent. Learn from me. You have that strength too. You just need to use it for the right things." He nodded, his expression sincere. "I will." Word spread quietly around the school about Ms. Lewis's detention club. What started as punishment turned into something students wanted to join. The bullies who once laughed now stood taller, calmer, focused. And in the hallways, whispers changed tone. "She's different. She doesn't just teach, she changes people." But Amara didn't care for praise. She cared about one thing: impact. The same kids who tore her shirt now stayed after class to help clean the gym. The same voices that once mocked her now asked for advice. Yet she knew the real test was still coming. Because every transformation faces a moment of truth. And when that truth arrived, Lincoln High would never be the same again. It started on a Monday morning, quiet, ordinary, like any other school day. The halls buzzed with chatter, lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked across polished floors. But something was different. Every time Ms. Amara Lewis passed by, whispers followed her. At first, she ignored it. She had grown used to whispers. But when she entered her classroom, she felt the shift immediately. The uneasy silence, the sideways glances, the phones half hidden under desks. "Morning," she said simply, setting her books down. No one replied. Brent's face was pale. Mason looked down at his desk. Lila's phone trembled in her hand. "What's going on?" Amara asked quietly. No one answered until one of the younger students in the back muttered, "It's online." Amara frowned. "What's online?" Lila swallowed hard and turned her phone toward her. On the screen played a video, shaky, grainy, but unmistakable. It was that day. The moment Brent tore her shirt. The laughter, the cruelty, the silence that followed. It had been filmed by someone sitting near the back and uploaded over the weekend. In less than 48 hours, it had spread everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. The caption read, "New teacher gets bullied at Lincoln High, stays calm like a boss." Amara watched in silence as the clip replayed. Her calm face, the laughter echoing, the pause, the way she'd closed the door afterward. But what caught her off guard wasn't the video itself. It was the comments. That teachers got discipline. "She handled that better than I ever could. She's a Marine, isn't she? I recognize that breathing technique. Those kids should be ashamed." The post had gone viral. Hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of comments, news outlets, tagging #StrongTeacher. When she looked up, half the class couldn't meet her eyes. By lunchtime, reporters were outside the school. The district was flooded with calls. The principal, red-faced and nervous, called her into the office. "Ms. Lewis," began, rubbing his temples, "we have a situation." "I'm aware," she said calmly. "I want you to know we're handling it," he continued. "But the board's concerned. They think this," he gestured vaguely toward the window, where a small crowd of journalists had gathered, "might reflect badly on the school." Amara's expression didn't change. "Reflect badly?" I was assaulted in your classroom, Mr. Moore. He winced. I understand. But the optics, she repeated, her voice suddenly sharp. The optics of a teacher staying calm under abuse. Or the optics of a school that lets its students behave that way. He looked down, speechless. After a moment, she softened. I don't need sympathy, sir. I need you to trust that discipline isn't built in comfort. It's built in accountability, he nodded slowly. The board still wants a hearing. Tomorrow morning, be prepared. That night, Amara sat in her small apartment, sipping tea as the rain tapped against her window. The TV in the background buzzed with coverage of the viral video. She didn't watch it. Instead, she opened an old wooden box on her kitchen table. Inside were her medals, the Bronze Star, the Meritorious Service Medal, and a folded note from her late commanding officer. For calm under fire, it read. She closed the box gently. The next morning, the hearing room was packed. Teachers, parents, reporters, and even a few students who had come out of curiosity. The board chair cleared his throat. Ms. Lewis, we understand a serious incident occurred in your classroom and the footage has gone viral. Some parents are demanding disciplinary action against you for not responding immediately to the student's behavior. Amara raised an eyebrow. You mean for not fighting children? Murmurs rippled through the audience. Ms. Lewis, the chair said carefully. This is a serious matter. Before he could finish, the double doors at the back of the room swung open. 4 men and 1 woman entered, all in uniform, veterans. The audience turned. Cameras clicked. One of the men stepped forward, a tall, broad-shouldered black veteran with deep-set eyes and a voice that carried weight. Named Sergeant Raymond Cole, he said. I served with Ms. Lewis. She's one of the finest instructors the Marines ever had. What she did that day wasn't weakness. It was strength, another veteran spoke up. Most people shout when they're disrespected. She stayed calm. That's control, the kind of control we teach soldiers to have under fire. The room fell silent. Amara sat still, hands folded, eyes steady. Then Sergeant Cole continued. If this school can't recognize that kind of leadership, maybe the problem isn't her. The board members exchanged uneasy looks. The chairman cleared his throat. Noted, Sergeant. Thank you for your testimony. By the end of the session, it was clear Amara Lewis wasn't going anywhere. The board reinstated her without hesitation, and the district released a public statement praising her professionalism. The students who had mocked her watched the news that night in stunned silence. The next day, when Amara entered her classroom, no one laughed. Even Brent, Mason, and Lila sat up straight, eyes down, avoiding her gaze. She didn't lecture them. She didn't need to. After roll call, she simply said, Jim, after class. One last lesson. They knew better than to argue. That afternoon, the same students stood in a perfect line on the gym floor. The mats were gone, replaced by an obstacle course of ropes, cones, and weighted bags. This, Amara said, is a challenge. You'll complete it as a team. No one finishes until everyone does. Brent frowned. What's the point? Respect, she said simply. You'll learn it the way I did, through failure. The whistle blew that they ran, crawled, climbed, tripped. Leela fell halfway over the rope and burst into frustrated tears. Mason tried to help her, but dropped his weight bag. Brent yelled for them to move faster. Chaos. Amara watched quietly. Arms crossed. They reached the finish line late, sloppy, arguing. Failed, she said flatly. Again, Brent's face twisted. We're trying. Trying isn't enough when someone depends on you, she replied. Then what do we do? Lila asked, her voice trembling. Amara stepped forward. You stop thinking about yourself. You start thinking like a team. She had them reset. Start over again, they ran. Again, they stumbled. But this time, Brent grabbed Mason's hand when he slipped. Lila shouted encouragement instead of insults. They moved slower, but together. When they crossed the finish line, Mara's expression didn't change, but her voice softened. Better. They were panting, sweating, exhausted, but something had shifted. For the first time, they weren't just classmates, they were a unit. Over the following weeks, the change became visible. The same students who once mocked her now helped set up her classroom in the mornings. They stayed after school, mentoring younger kids who struggled with discipline. Brent joined the junior ROTC program. Mason volunteered for community service. Leela started journaling about her transformation, later publishing an article titled "The Teacher Who Taught Us to Breathe." The school changed too. The administration introduced a new program inspired by Amara's teaching, the Respect Initiative. Students learned emotional control, teamwork, and empathy. And for the first time in years, Lincoln High had fewer fights, fewer detentions, fewer dropouts. One afternoon, Brent found Amara alone in the gym again. The late sunlight pouring through the high windows, he approached quietly. "Ms. Lewis?" She looked up from her clipboard. "Yes, Brent." He hesitated. "I just wanted to say thank you for not giving up on us. You could have quit." "Most teachers do," Amara smiled faintly. "Quitting's easy. Growth isn't." He nodded slowly, then said, "I think I get it now. Respect isn't about fear. It's about responsibility." Her smile widened just a little. "Exactly. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It wasn't perfect. But it was real, and soon the same world that once mocked the viral video began celebrating it instead. News outlets called her the calm, under-fire teacher. Students nationwide shared her, quote, "Respect can't be demanded. It must be earned, even from those who wronged you." Amara never responded to interviews, never chased fame. She simply showed up every morning, greeting each student with the same steady tone. "Good morning. Let's begin, because that's what strength looks like. Not anger, not revenge, but patience. And in that patience, her students discovered something that would stay with them forever: the quiet, unshakable power of dignity. Months later, Lincoln High looked almost unrecognizable. The walls that once echoed with cruel laughter and whispered gossip now carried posters of teamwork, respect, and accountability. The gym that had once been a punishment ground was now home to the Respect and Redemption Club, founded by the very students who used to cause the most trouble every Wednesday. Students from all grades gathered there, not because they were forced to, but because they wanted to. They trained, studied, shared their struggles, and helped each other learn the kind of discipline Ms. Amara Lewis had shown them. Her story had traveled far beyond the school walls. The video that once showed her humiliation now inspired millions. News networks ran segments titled, "From Bullied Teacher to Role Model." Schools across the state invited her to speak about emotional control and leadership. But Amara? She stayed where she was, still teaching in the same classroom. Still starting every day with her soft but steady good morning class. That spring, the principal announced a special event, the annual school assembly. Only this year, it wasn't about sports trophies or attendance awards. It was about growth. Students buzzed with excitement, whispering that something big was planned. Even Amara didn't know what was coming. When she walked into the auditorium that morning, she stopped short. On the stage, a large banner hung above the crowd. "Respect and Redemption, a tribute to Ms. Lewis." Rows of students filled the seats, their faces glowing with pride. The same ones who once mocked her now wore expressions of gratitude. At the center stood Brent, Mason, and Leela, the three who had started it all. Amara blinked, unsure what to say. The principal stepped up to the podium, smiling warmly. "Today," he said, "we honor a teacher who taught us more than math, science, or literature. She taught us how to be better people." Applause filled the room. Amara's heart swelled, her throat tight. Ms. Lewis, the principal, continued. "When you first arrived, some didn't understand your calm, your strength, your patience. But now we do. You turned a moment of cruelty into a lesson that changed this school forever." He gestured toward Brent, who stepped forward nervously, holding a small folder. Brent cleared his throat. We put something together." He opened the folder and began reading. "This is our project, Respect and Redemption. It's a program inspired by you. It's for kids who feel lost, angry, or out of control. We teach them the same way you taught us, through patience, teamwork, and discipline." He paused, voice wavering. "We messed up. We were cruel, but you didn't give up on us. You saw something in us that we didn't even see ourselves. You showed us that strength isn't about hurting people. It's about helping them." He turned to her then, his eyes sincere. "And for that, we're sorry." The auditorium went silent. Then Mason stepped up beside him. "We tore your shirt that day. We thought it made us powerful. But you showed us what real power looks like, keeping your cool when the world tries to break you." Lila joined them, tears shining in her eyes. "You made me see myself differently. I used to think being mean made me strong. But now I know. Kindness is harder, and it lasts longer." The three of them looked out at the crowd. "So this is for you, Ms. Lewis," Brent said. "You didn't just teach us. You changed us." They stepped aside, revealing a plaque on an easel, the Amara Lewis's Respect and Redemption Initiative. Founded in honor of the teacher who taught Lincoln High the meaning of strength. For a long moment, Amara couldn't move. Her vision blurred as tears filled her eyes, not of pain, but of pride. The crowd rose to their feet. Students, teachers, parents, even the principal wiped his eyes. The applause was thunderous, echoing through the hall. When the sound finally softened, Amara stepped forward, her voice steady but full of emotion. "I didn't expect this," she began, smiling faintly. "When I came here, I just wanted to teach. I didn't come to be admired. I came because I believe every young person deserves a chance to become their best self." She looked directly at Brent, Mason, and Lila. "That means even the ones who make mistakes. Especially the ones who make mistakes." A few students nodded, their eyes glistening. Amara continued, her voice growing stronger. "You see, discipline isn't about control. It's not about making someone obey. It's about teaching yourself to rise above your impulses, your anger, your fear. It's about self-respect. And once you have that," she placed a hand over her heart, "no one can tear it from you." The auditorium went silent. Then came the applause again, louder this time, standing, roaring. After the ceremony, Amara stepped outside into the bright afternoon. The campus lawn shimmered under the sunlight, students laughing and talking nearby. Brent approached her, holding a folded paper. "What's that?" she asked. He handed it to her shyly. It was a letter handwritten in uneven ink. "Dear Ms. Lewis, thank you for showing me that strength isn't about winning, it's about understanding. You didn't punish us. You helped us grow. Because of you, I want to join the Marines someday, not to fight others, but to fight for something good." Amara looked up, eyes soft. "You'll make a great Marine one day, Brent. But remember, the real battlefield is right here." She tapped her temple. "It's learning to choose the right thing, even when it's hard." He nodded, smiling through misty eyes. "Yes, ma'am." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Amara stood alone in the gym one last time. The mats were stacked neatly in the corner, the walls lined with posters from the Respect and Redemption Club. She closed her eyes, breathing in the quiet, the same way she had that first day after her shirt was torn, when the laughter had still echoed. But now, instead of pain, there was peace. She thought of all the faces she had seen since then, the tears, the smiles, the determination, the transformation, and she whispered softly to herself, "Mission complete." She turned off the lights, the gym fading into shadow, and stepped into the hallway. Weeks later, an article appeared in the New York Times. The teacher who turned bullies into leaders, Amara Lewis, didn't fight back when her students humiliated her. Instead, she taught them the strength of self-control. Her calm under fire sparked a movement spreading across schools nationwide. A reminder that true power begins with respect. At the bottom of the article was a photo of her standing among her students, smiling, proud, at peace. Moral: true strength isn't measured by how loud you shout or how hard you hit. It's in how quietly you stand your ground when the world tries to knock you down. Discipline, isn't about control. It's about self-respect. And once you learn to respect yourself, no one, not a bully, not the world, can ever take your power away. Soft cinematic piano begins, gentle, uplifting, emotional. The camera fades in on the empty Lincoln High gym. Sunlight spills across the floor, where the respect and redemption banner still hangs. The sound of distant laughter echoes faintly, like memories of the past. They thought they could break her spirit. They thought tearing her shirt, mocking her voice, and testing her patience would make her crumble. But they didn't know. Real strength doesn't shout. It doesn't fight for attention. It stands still, calm, grounded, unshakable. Montage plays slow-motion shots of Amara leading her students through training. Brent helping Mason up, Lila smiling through exhaustion. The class standing together as a team. Ms. Amara Lewis didn't just teach those kids math or history. She taught them something far more powerful, the art of discipline, the beauty of respect, the courage of patience. The camera pans to Amara, walking down the hallway, sunlight gleaming off her calm smile. Students pass by, nodding respectfully. In a world that mocks kindness and mistakes, silence for weakness. She reminded us all that true power doesn't need to prove itself. Because strength isn't about fighting those who hurt you. It's about rising above them. It's about turning pain into purpose and cruelty into courage. Flashback. The viral moment, the torn shirt, the laughter, her calm face. Then dissolved to the same classroom, now filled with laughter, learning, and unity. If this story moved you, don't just scroll past. Let it remind you someone out there needs your patience, your kindness, your strength today. Every time you share stories like this, you help light up the world with something we all need more of, empathy. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel. You're joining a movement, one that believes in second chances, in change, in the power of Black stories that uplift, not divide. Montage, diverse faces, students of all colors laughing, studying, learning. Amara handing Brent a certificate. Her walking out into the sunlight with quiet pride, because somewhere right now, another young woman is standing in a classroom just like hers, calm, strong, and underestimated. And someone's about to learn that her silence is the loudest thing in the room. If her story inspired you, don't just watch. Be part of it. Hit that subscribe button, not for numbers, but for voices that deserve to be heard. Share this video, not for clicks, but for the lessons that change hearts. And remember, every view, every share, every comment you leave keeps these stories alive. They thought they were breaking her, but strength doesn't break, it teaches. When life tests you, stand still, breathe deep, and remember, respect starts within. This story touched you? Subscribe for more real, powerful Black stories that remind the world what strength truly looks like. Because real power doesn't shout, it stands.